Yes, sir. Your
Yeah,
screen is.
are you able to recollect where we exactly stopped our discussion? I believe we were talking about capital market, and in that we discussed about IPO, SEBI basic guidelines. What type of companies can come forward for IPO issue? What are the basic guidelines? I believe we already discussed about these norms. Can anybody confirm whether we have discussed or not? Yeah,
Yes,
anyone?
sir. Profitably route and the book building
Okay, yeah, because we were
to a
talking about
company.
here book building and fixed price issue, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so what we will do, I think this was the last slide where we talked about type of investors. And then because of shortage of time, we stopped our discussion here itself. So we will continue from these, because these are information that you may be aware of, or over the period of time when you are going to deal with the your research or other finance related courses, you will better. So, but as this particular course should at least introduce what are broad classification, especially classification when it comes to SEBI guideline. So from looking from that point of view, we have all these discussion. So now coming back to our this slide, SEBI generally categorize all the market participant into these three category. First category, it's retail investor, like when you and me, open a Demat account, and through Demat account, when we trade, basically we are classified at retail individual investor. Then you have QIBs. Basically, QIBs are qualified institutional buyer, where mutual fund, LIC, these kind of institutions are basically part of QIBs. And these QIBs are defined by the SEBI, and all other institutions, though that are not individual investor, are classified as QIBs. They are basically non-institutional investor. So this is how, and as per the SEBI 2016 guideline, retail investor means a person who participate in market with amount of less than 2 lakhs in a given security. In a given security, remember, because you may be individual investor having invested to 10 lakhs, or can invest 10 to 20 lakhs, but in a given security, this is what maximum amount you can invest at a given point of time. And for QIBs, these are the certain guidelines. For example, your in terms of QIB, your mutual fund, venture capital, and foreign venture capital that are registered with SEBI under the QIB guideline, they can participate in a market, especially IPO market. Foreign institutional investor through FPI, foreign portfolio, FPI, foreign portfolio investment, they can participate in India. We have scheduled commercial bank, not more than 3% of their time deposit. Banks are allowed to participate. If you remember, when we were discussing about commercial bank, in there, in terms of investment or in terms of liquidity provision, banks were allowed to participate in market buying government security or such instrument at the same time, and there was condition that bank has to invest, but bank can also diversify their portfolio participating in this kind of market like stock market. And that's why this is another branch or another way by which bank can participate. So that's why one non classified securities are basically these securities, basically primary your stock market security or bond market securities are basically non-RBI classified security where commercial banks are allowed to participate in case of they have excess capital. Apart from that, state, various state industrial development corporation, they are allowed. Provident fund, national investment fund. So basically all these are allowed to participate, in market as QIB, qualified institutional buyer. Now how basically book building process takes place. Basically what are the certain basic guidelines, because there are n number of guidelines, but basic criteria we will discuss, because over the period of time based on various notification these guidelines will keep on changing. But as of now 2019, based on 2019 information, this is how book building a company can go for book building. So in case of any issuer, we will see those guidelines. In case of any issuer company wants to make issue of 100% of net offering to public through book building process. So there are certain route. First route is not less than 35% of net offer to be given to the public available. Second is not less than 15% of net offer shall be available for allocation to public, and 15% to non-institutional investor. And third possibility is there that not more than 50% of net offer to public shall be available for your qualified institution. Basically, when book building is taking place, you may come across either this kind of distribution of share or allocation you can call, or this kind of allocation where you will have public, public retail participation as well as non-institutional participation. And another way you can see that domination or more participation from QIBs, qualified institutional buyers. And second case could be when because when size is very large, firm will have to go for book building process. When it is more than 100 crore, firm will have to go for book building process. So in that case, at least 75% of you can see 75% of net offer to the public being allocated to QIBs. And now 75 is given, now remaining 25% distribution, when we see not more than 15% to public shall be available to non-institutional investor, and not more than 10% net offer shall be available to retail investor. So this kind of, in first case we have seen you have 35%, 15 and 50% in this scenario when company is making 100% of net offering to public. So this is how distribution will be. In case of compulsory book building issue, company will have to follow this kind of distribution or allocation of shares among QIB, your retail investor and your non-institutional investors. And now we will see how this kind of allocation takes place in case of fixed price issue. And remember, in fixed price issue, the price of share or price of IPO is decided. and based on that indicative price, generally retail investor or various investor who want to participate, they submit their application or they submit their subscription form, and then finally allocation happens. So we will see in case of fixed price issue what kind of distribution takes place. So in case of fixed price issue, a minimum of 50% of net offer of security to public shall initially be made available for allotment to retail investor. Remember, so this is basically our retail individual investor, RRIs. The balance of the remaining 50% should be given to a retail investor, and remaining should be made available to individual applicant other than retail investor and other investor, including corporate body and institution, irrespective of number of securities applied for. So it means in this case you will find 50% is going to be kept for or will be given to retail individual investor, whereas in case of book building, if you see, we have different set of distribution: 35%, 15 and 50%, 50% for to QIB. In case of non-mandatory, non-compulsory book building process, in case of compulsory book building process, 75% will go to QIB, and your retail investor will be given 10%. So this is how basically your allocation happens. And now another set of guidelines that RBI has given, how much time to be given. Let's say when company wants to go for raising capital through IPO, how much time to be given to individual for participation. So in case of fixed price public issue, so at minimum 3 or maximum of 10 days should be given, so that people will be aware of that this kind of issue is going to be floated in the market by XYZ firm, and they can, based on their choice of investment, they can participate, they can submit basically their subscription form, or they can apply to for getting share. In case of book building process, 3 to 7 days working days should be given. And whereas in case of right issue, 15 to 30 days. So what is difference between right issue and IPO? Can anybody distinguish these two? Initial public offering versus right issue. Is there any difference? Yeah. Students?
So rights issue is given in case of existing shareholders.
Okay. So how we can treat this as a source of capital raising activity for the firm?
Sir, could you repeat?
So here basically IPO, if I assume IPO and right issue as source of capital for a firm. So,
Yes, sir.
so how you can how we can argue that right issue can be a substitute whenever we are talking about sources of finance or sources of capital.
Sir, right issue is dependent upon the number of shares we already have. Just like last year, the Reliance have introduced their right issue based on the number of shares we already have. Like just we have 10 shares, so upon 10 shares we are given uh, one share.
Yeah, basically, right issue is we use as rights. Here, you from name itself, you can make some sense. Right issue, when we call, basically, this is a kind of right or option given to the existing shareholder. For example, let's say in a company has issued, let's say 100,000, 1 lakh of shares. So these many shares are available in the market. And what company is saying? Company is saying for each issue, for each share, 1 rights I'm going to give. Let's say not each for 5, so that there will be basically, or let's say for time being we consider 1 lakh shares are there, and for each share 1 right. So what is saying, let's say each and all these shares are held by, let's say 20,000 shareholder. And if we assume that it means 1 lakh shares, means each shareholder is basically keeping 5 shares. Just for our understanding, this kind of assumption we are making. So what company will say? Company will say you will get right to buy. 1 right issue means you are going to get to buy a share, because 1 share is equal to 1 right. It is said you are our existing shareholders having right to buy 1 additional share by exercising this right by paying subscription fee. It means, let's say price of this share is, I'm assuming that, let's say 250 rupee as of now. And company comes with this offer for existing shareholder that rights issues we are going to issue. So first, all these options right issue will be available for these existing shareholders. So company will say, this right issue is available, let's say for 1 month. And if you want to use this right issue, what you will have to do, you will have to pay subscription fee of, let's say 75 rupee. Means to get right to buy 1 share, you will have to make payment of 75 rupee. So you can see that, based on number of, how your existing shareholders participate, because here by paying 75 rupee, your shareholder will get rights, and that 1 right can be used to convert to get 1 additional share in the company. And if we assume that all shareholders, means all existing 20,000 shareholder buy this right. If they are buying this right, it means there again the their ownership, percentage ownership in after converting these rights into new share will be the same. It means right issue won't impact on the percentage ownership. And that's why right issue are given or offered to the existing shareholder. And at the same time, when existing shareholders are paying 75 rupee to buy rights, it means company will be able to raise capital, and that capital can invest in whatever way company wants. So that's why we assume that right issue as an option or instrument for raising capital, like in IPO when company is coming, option to issue share. So in that way, by issuing new share, whether it's fixed price or your book building process, whatever process following the SEBI guideline company is doing, based on that capital will be raised. And once all these things are done, then share should be listed. Once your fixed price or book building or right issue dates are over, subscription date, so within 12 days or basically 2 week working days, basically 5 plus 5, so around after 12 days you will find those shares will be available in the market, because these are going to be included on NSE or BSE based on price, whether it's fixed price or book building. At that price, those shares will be introduced, and once introduced, you can buy and buy and sell those shares. So this is what, more or less you will observe that new IPOs are coming into the market, and how various intermediaries are involved. So we will see various intermediaries. So basically, in IPO issue, these are the intermediaries you will see in any case, especially in book building. It will be very clearly mentioned. What details you can get from in book building is, first is your merchant banker. Basically, merchant bank is nothing but your book running lead manager. We will take also example. I have one example so that it is going to be clear. Registrar to issue. Basically, registrar will help in various documentation, bankers, and then underwriter. Underwriter to the issue who are associated with the different activities. So we will see, what are basic definitions. So when we say merchant bank or lead manager, lead book running manager, basically he will be the face of the company when all these documentation is taking place with SEBI, because various documents need to be prepared. It should be shared, submitted, like initial document, then red herring prospect. So all these documents, and at the end, once shares your book building process and everything is done, then lead manager has to ensure that shares are basically given to the right person, basically shareholder who applied to get shares of that particular firm. And registrar basically involved in various allocation, settling down the refund and allotment. Bankers, because many times it happens one bank may not be sufficient to take care of your what you call IPO. Many times, because IPO, let's say assume it's 1200 crore, means company is targeting to raise 1200 crore. So there should be more institution involved, and that's how role of bankers becomes important. Hello. Hello.
Yes, sir.
I think some internet issue was there in between. So we were discussing about registrar and then banker to issue. Basically, banker to issue are involved in movement of fund in the IPO process, and therefore enable registrar to finalize the allotment. And underwriter are basically intermediaries who take subscription to the security offered by the company in case of not fully subscribed. So basically underwriter, let's say company wants to take service of underwriter, where underwriter gives assurance to the company that if your subscription is not fully subscribed. Basically, if let's say company wants to come with company wants to issue, let's say 1 lakh share, 1 lakh new IPO based on their amount they want to, let's say using price fixed price approach, they want to use this these many new shares they want to introduce, and but it is not subscribed, means investor did not show interest to buy all this. So let's say 20% is unsubscribed, means not allocated. So in case of, so they many times what companies do, they take help of underwriter. And what underwriter does, they say the okay, of whatever unsubscribed portion is there, we will buy it or we will take it, and whenever, and then later on they are going to release or they are going to issue in the market. or they will sell to the QIB or other intermediaries. So this is how underwriter helps that subscription or whatever target company is setting to raise amount or introduce IPO, it is going to be fulfilled. Here I have taken, this is 7th October information. So on 7th October, these many IPOs were planned, and these are basically main companies IPO, and you can see closing date. So 29 to 30, around 3 days. So as we were saying that in case of book building, 3 days, 3 to 7 days should be given. So here you can see it opened 27th of September, closed on 1st of October, and here lot size, issue price. So all these information you can get. And same way here for this is SME IPOs. And now coming back to, so from all this, what I have done, I have taken this UTI AMC IPO and tried to see what kind of objective of this company had when they came with this IPO. So you can see this company they open IPO process on 27, closed on this number of shares that were planned. And this is face value. Remember, face value is nothing to do with the issue price. So, but how we take this is just a notional value, and for certain calculation we consider it like paid up capital number. So in that case we use this face value, and this IPO followed a book building process. Issue size you can see 2160 crore, because size itself is very big, and that's why following this AB guideline the only option that company had is book building process. And lot size means every interested investor will have to buy share in a lot size of 27 shares. And issue price 552 to 554 per share. So this is what they have planned, and both simultaneous listing, and October 12 was the listing date. So you can see this is October 1, it is finished. October 12 it got listed. So time between these two is around 11 days. And in our previous slide we have seen that within 12 days stock should be listed once this your subscription dates completes. Subscription dates means your closing date. And in this case, if you see lead manager in case of this, because this entire this issue size was very big, and that's why it was very difficult for one individual bank or one individual intermediary to take care of that. That's why you will find here there is basically a group of intermediary. Those were working along with the UTI for raising this capital. And this is what your promoter and management of UTI. So this is basically firm specific information, but we are more interested here. You see ICICI, JM Financial Consultants, and SBI Capital. So these three together, basically this is a kind of syndicate or group of institution. They participated as a lead manager. And in terms of registrar, because registrar will be involved in book recording and other activity, so K Fin Technology was book registrar in this UTI AMC IPO. So this is how when you are going to analyze a particular IPO, so these information may be helpful, and how, these intermediary are going to be very much helpful for companies while raising capital through IPO. And certain terms are there when we talk about IPO. One term is there, basically green shoe option. So now think about a case where company came with IPO and company received let's say 100% or 200% additional subscription. So what does it mean? It means for every share, so they receive, for every share they receive 2 times of interest, 2 time application for getting that share. We call it oversubscribed. Oversubscribed means till the point it is not allocated, we use term subscription. So in this case, many times you will find that people were very much interested to buy particular share in IPO process, and that's why they submitted their interest through subscription form, and it got oversubscribed. So it means demand is more for this kind of share. And chances are very likely that, let's say, if there is no mechanism to meet this demand, when this share is going to be introduced in secondary market, probably there may be some kind of pressure, because people will be more positive towards buying this share, because they assume that firm is doing very well, they have good fundamentals. So there could be numerous reasons for that. So there is one option, we call it green shoe option. So what green shoe option is, basically if company wants to, let's say, issue only 100 shares, and this kind of scenario may arise, company thinks that chances are likely that my subscription, people will be more willing to buy this IPO. So they can, they can add green shoe option where company will be allowed to issue additional 15% of share. So it means rather than 100, company will be able to issue 115 share. So you can think of this kind of scenario where 100 share was there, but because of green shoe option, what will happen? More shares will be available. So this over demand pressure can be reduced up to large extent, because green shoe options are there. So that's why green shoe option we can consider as price stabilizing mechanism. Otherwise, because of high demand, when shares are going to be introduced in NSE or BSE, there may be severe buying pressure. So that's why green shoe option, you can think of a kind of mechanism that minimize, up to some extent, it minimize the one side pressure, demand pressure basically. Another term that you may come across is safety net. So what is the safety net? Basically, safety net is a kind of scheme or buyback arrangement. The issuer company, in consultation with the lead manager, lead merchant bank, in red herring prospectus. Remember red RHP, red herring prospectus is the prospectus where price specific information related to IPO is disclosed. If the price of share of company post listing goes below a certain level, of issuer will purchase back a specific number of share from the original retail individual investor. So basically, say what is the safety net? Safety net is a provision where issuer, IPO issuer or company may buy certain number of share from the retail investor if price of shares comes down. Chances are very likely, even if you go Reliance Power example, Reliance Power. This IPO came in 2000, I believe 8 or 7. So far my I can recollect it was around January 2008. So it was, you won't believe, this was heavily subscribed, means it was oversubscribed. But when it was introduced, immediately first day itself, price of share started falling down. And as various analysts commented that because firm's fundamental itself was very weak, there was nothing, because all the power project that Reliance was, handling, they were about to start 20 years from 2008. Means there was long time period when those power plant will start generating, power. So because of that, what has happened? There was a continuous decline in the price. And you think of, situation where when you purchase a particular share. So let's say in Jan 2008, this was issued. So it was, I believe it was issued around 117 or so. So let's say this price PT, I'll just write. And it started coming down. It means if it is coming down, the retail investor are going to be affected because their wealth, their money, hard money is going to be, affected. So safety net, what safety net does, let's say in safety net, provisions are made that if price goes, assuming that this is your PT, if price goes down by, let's say 10%, this will be triggered and issuing company will buy certain number of shares from the, retail investor, so that retail investors are not going to be, suffered a lot because of, drop in this kind of share prices. That's why this is a kind of safety mechanism available. And when we talk about underwriting process may be of different characteristic. First, we can classify hard underwriting. So what we are saying hard underwriting process, basically in hard underwriting process, underwriter will take guarantee or give commitment before the issue of share. What commitment underwriter will give? Underwriter will say that if your subscription, if investors are not subscribing, then underwriter is going to take risk and subscribe all the shares. For example, in this UTI case, these many shares were planned to issue, and assume that if 20% are unsubscribed or investor do not show for these 20%. In case of hard underwriting case, at even beginning, when at the beginning of this IPO before 29th of September, these underwriters will give assurance to the issuer or to this company UTI that if you don't find sufficient number of investors, we are going to buy. So this kind of underwriting, we call it hard underwriting. Similarly, under the soft underwriting, this kind of risk, this kind of agreement between underwriter and your subscriber won't be there. So under this, basically your underwriter agrees to buy share at a stage after it closes, not at the beginning. So what will happen underwriter is going to see what kind of situation is there, and then after all observing that, underwriter or intermediary will help company to in case of under subscription. Basically, these are certain things we should know whenever we talk about a capital market or issue of IPO. So there are, many things to know, but at this point of time, I believe having a fair idea of what are these various intermediaries, how they participate, I think that would be, sufficient for us in this particular topic. Yeah, and any question? So basically, what we have done, we have covered, this more or less this entire diagram, and we have examined what kind of intermediaries, whether it's underwriter, who are merchant banker or lead manager in IPO process. So, and if you have any question, we can take, otherwise we can start another topic. Any question? Fine, so I believe, yeah, there are no questions, so I'll switch to another topic. And one more thing regarding your project. So what we will do, we will start, discussing about your project in first week of November month, because if I'm not wrong, deadline for your report submission is 3rd of November. So what I'll do, I'll share, your presentation sequence by this weekend itself, and that all those groups are going to prepare their presentation based on what topic they have worked on. So let's say someone has worked on quantitative easing, or someone has worked on role of commercial bank. Hello? Hello?
Yes, sir, you are audible.
Yeah, so what I was saying, that I'll share schedule, and based on that schedule, we will there will be 10 to 15 minutes quick presentation on how you have worked on your particular project, and then in that way we will evaluate, and also you will be submitting your report as well. So deadline is 3rd of November, so that we will be able to complete your evaluation by 2nd week of November. And then one quiz will also be there. So with that quiz, we will be able to distribute all your evaluation in terms of quizzes, in terms of your assignment and your final project. So that's what I have planned. And if you have any question about your project or anything, you can write to me. We will be able to discuss it. Now, so far we have covered about various intermediaries who are involved in IPO process. And there are other intermediaries or institutions that help in various ways, whether it's IPO, whether it is related to opening your Demat account, whether it is related to ensuring your your transaction. Your transaction means when you are buying, you are paying to another seller, and at the end you should receive purchase asset in your account. So role of depository system or institution becomes very important. And in this module, in this topic, we will see what are the depository institution, why they are important, and how they, offer various services. Because at the end, all these institutions, all these intermediaries are trying to build a robust financial system. So we will start with, our discussion on what is a script-based system. Basically, by when we are calling a script, basically it is related to a physical form of security or some kind of agreement. So basically, when we say a script-based system of security involves, paperwork. Earlier, if you remember, in 90s, if your parents or any relative, they were into trading activity. So all that trading, whatever purchase or sell of security were happening, it was in paper format. And you can think of when you have this kind of transaction, the type of efficiency we are getting today, where everything is in digital form, was very difficult at that point of time. And that's why, because of to remove this kind of script based system, the role of intermediary like depository system was became very important. And that's why these depository institution really help us. Even when we are going to discuss about their various benefit, you all will realize that whether we directly consider them as an important participant or not, but in the background they are helping to Indian financial system. So you can think of that if is still we might be using script based trading system. So these many issues were there. First is time consuming. You have sold your share. Now you have to receive money, and at the same time that physical form of share should be sent to the buyer. So it was very time consuming. Chances are very likely that there may be default, or there may be bad deliveries. Chances are very likely that mistake in completion of transfer deed or agreement. There may be tearing of certificate, fake certificate, and there were a number of scams. If you go and read uh, scams in 90s, early 90s, you will find several scams. Those were because of we were following this kind of trading system, where shares or those financial assets were in physical form or paper format. And it was costly because transferring required at that point of time stamp duty. And of course, postal delay. When you have sold certain share or purchase, you will be owner when you receive it in physical form. And unless you receive, it is going to be in between. You don't know where exactly your purchase assets are. So that's why these were, you can easily realize these were the bottlenecks. And to avoid those bottlenecks, these depository system or these depository institution help a lot. So what basically these depository system, by name itself, this is coming from deposit. So basically these are the system in which securities of an investors are held by depository on behalf and on request of another and of your in electronic form. So basically all the shares now need not to be transferred in physical format. So you have one depository system where all the shares are stored in digital format, and whenever someone is selling or someone is basically here buying. So it will be here, but if someone is selling, money will be transferred to respective seller's account, and here it will be here, but in terms of in terms of transaction, share will reflect in the buyer's account. So you can see that rather than sending shares in physical format in post from seller to buyer. So this kind of tedious process and complex process is substituted by depository system. Otherwise, it was very much time consuming. And apart from that, you can think of, let's say, if we think of system, trading system in 90s, where seller has, let's say, seller has sold on, let's say, September 30, and it takes, let's say, 20 days. So let's say October, let's say 20. So buyer gets share on October 20. So in between, there is significant amount of time where those shares can be used as collateral, can be used for other activity. Because higher the gap between exact transaction and exact delivery, there are possibilities, many things can happen in between, and that result as various scam. So that's why depository system has now, even if you look at in the spot market, T+2, if you are transacting on Monday, so all the settlement by Wednesday it will take place, given that at least 2 working days are there in between. So now this kind of system, from this kind of lengthy and unreliable system, depository system has moved to this kind of efficient system, where possibility of scam or possibility of misuse of financial assets are relatively less. And when we compare depository institution with respect to banks, in banks we hold fund, whereas depository institution, what they do, they hold basically securities. It could be your debt security, it could be your derivative security, derivative based security, or shares. In banks we transfer fund, whereas here transfer of security takes place. You have here funds, physical handling of funds take place, and here securities are basically handled, and bank is custodian of your fund. If you have deposited, of course there is a limitation that maximum of 2 lakhs of money that you have in your deposit account will be saved. Similarly, but in case of, so it means there is some kind of security, some kind of security bank provides you whenever you keep your fund with them. Similar kind of security. So basically your depository institution is basically your custodian of securities for buyer and seller. Those who are having demat account and they are into the trading, they will take place. They will ensure that securities are safe and are available based on the guideline. So we will stop our discussion here, and if you have any question we can take it, otherwise we will continue our discussion tomorrow. Yeah, and any question? And so I'll share your yeah, Karthik. Karthik. Do you
Yes,
have any
sir.
question?
No, sir. No.
Actually, I heard some noise, so I thought you might have some question. Fine. So what we will do, we will stop our discussion here, and I'll share your final project presentation schedule by this weekend, and we will start from 3rd of November. And by that time, probably you all will be able to complete your project, and will be able to discuss among your batch mates. Fine. So I'm closing this session, and we'll meet tomorrow. Yeah, thank you.